Riding through the fields on his way home, the cowboy mentioned he had seen baby grasshoppers in the Fairchild field. He noticed because they were there last year. Spring was at hand with its usual worries, and so the sighting of the grasshoppers didn't seem so ominous just then. This was our sign, but we missed it. For a rancher, each season brings different activities. It had been an unusually warm spring. The meadows hinted green, and the daily grind of feeding the stock was giving way to turning the cattle out on the range. An essential job in the spring is spreading water, so we can grow enough hay to feed the herd through the cold months. Unfortunately, the past winter had once again been mild, and so the runoff would be short. Then there was the turnout, a looming springtime task that involves branding the calves and trailing the herd up into the mountains. The process takes several weeks. While the ranch buzzed with these seasonal activities, the rancher also worried about what lay ahead. A rancher always expects something unexpected. One of those worries is the weather. Our area has been plagued with several years of drought. With less water, there is less grass, and so the cow is in thinner condition in the fall. While less water decreases the forage available, it increases the likelihood of fire. Fire not only consumes a ranch's precious range, but also wildlife and the native plant species that reside there as well. The spring work and worries were forefront on everyone's mind, and the foreshadowing of a new fight for our land was overlooked when the cowboy saw the baby grasshoppers. When the turnout was over and we got back to the ranch, we saw more grasshoppers in the Fairchild field, more than last year and much earlier. Even without water, this field produces our most promising hay. So we decided to deal with the grasshoppers with hand-spread bait. Using poison or a chemical to combat any invader, be it weed, rodent, or insect, causes some anxiety. How safe is it for livestock? For wildlife? For humans? We were assured the bait was the safest available and yet still very effective, but not very affordable, especially with cattle prices being down. At $77 for a 44-pound bag, it is not cheap, nor does it go that far. The theory of the bait is based upon the fact that grasshoppers are cannibalistic. With one pass, we spread a 3-foot swath of bait. The grasshoppers are babies at this stage, less than 1/2 inch long. They crawl along the ground, eat the bait, and die. Those following eat the dead and dying, and the poison is passed on. At this point, our mode of operation was almost primitive. One person drove a pickup, another sat on the tailgate and pulled a lawn fertilizer spreader behind it. We see dead grasshoppers. They cover the ground, but as many live grasshoppers march over the dead. We run out of bait and off to Winnemucca to purchase more. Our stuff seems effective, and we are optimistic about getting ahead of the pesky critters. It is June, and the wind picks up about 10 a.m. The window of time to spread the bait is limited, and because this is a chemical, our manpower is limited as well. Even though this bait is supposed to be totally safe, in our minds it is still a poison and as such carries risks. We choose not to have the ranch hands do the spreading. Facing the grasshoppers is unreal. Unless you have seen this phenomenon, it is hard to visualize.
It looks like a rug, a moving rug.
All you see is a dark brown mass moving in a west-southwest direction, marching, slowly marching, relentlessly marching, devouring whatever lies in its path. Proud stems of ryegrass bend under the weight of these invaders. A badger hole is even shrouded. The irrigator sees another bunch. The cowboys see some somewhere else. On a trip to check the water 10 miles away, there are more. They are everywhere. The severity of this invasion sinks in.
We kill millions, but there are billions left.
We strengthen our arsenal. More bait is purchased. A piece of equipment is rented to spread it more efficiently. We look into aerial spraying. It is out of the question because of its enormous cost. The battle carries on in the non-windy hours of early in the day and just before dusk. When referring to them politely, they are hoppers. Most of the time, though, they're referred to less politely. When you walk through their territory, your pant leg is covered from the knee down. The gray gravel road has become black polka-dotted. You hear tick, 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 tick hit the windshield and the sides of your vehicle. While the ranchers see the hoppers ravenously devouring next winter's hay, the mail ladies see them differently.
It looked like a black cloud, and it was slick driving through them. The radiator in the truck would just get covered. By the time I'd get back here with the mail, the truck was beginning to heat up, and you'd have to take the hose and hose them out of there the best you could, and stink. Oh, they just smelled terrible. And if you had a flat tire and had to change it, ooh, it was a mess.
And then they start flying. Our hearts sink. Our stomachs are sickened. Our will is weak.
There's a swarm out there in front of me, and you can hear the air. There's a hum. Ooh, like that. I thought, oh Christ, this is some movie or something that we're watching. They're going to pack us out of here.
When they begin to fly, the bait is ineffective. It seems the only option left is aerial spraying. The valley teams up. As a last resort, an airplane is brought in, and once again the question of safety keeps gnawing away at you, as does the enormous expense of this battle. With cattle prices being down, it is more difficult to break even. Factor in the thousands of dollars to combat grasshoppers, and this challenge looks insurmountable. We spray. We spray again and wait. There are lots of dead grasshoppers. In some areas, they are completely gone. A few days go by, and we feel as though we have won the war. But then, 5 miles southwest of the ranch, it looks as if they have only relocated and are busily mating. In another area that was grasshopper-free, we find baby hoppers. We learn there are several hatches in a season, and we begin questioning the effectiveness of our eradication efforts. Overall, it is better, but the damage inflicted upon our livelihood is huge.
The bottom line is, instead of putting up 700 ton of hay, we only put up 60 ton of hay on our main ranch.
And there's going to be a loss in production that may be twofold, in that the quality of the forage was depleted and the quantity of the forage was depleted for this year. But for next year, some of the hay that we're going to be feeding these cows this winter is of pretty low quality, because the grasshoppers have gotten in it and removed most of the leaves from the plants. So it could affect us next year in that the quality of this feed that these cattle are getting this winter is not going to be as good, and we may see some loss in production next year, not only in weaning weights but in conception rates.
The other thing they damaged was the inside pasture. They probably got 70 or 80% of our pasture along the fringes of the meadow that we couldn't use by the time we needed it. They just wiped it out just like a lawnmower.
I would say that 50% of the range grass that the grasshoppers had gone through was lost in quantity, but the quality of the other 50% of the grass that was left standing was reduced in nutrition.
But even if we do have good water runoff and we have the grasshoppers back, I just don't know how to cope with it.
As we write this, a new season and its work are upon us. The hoppers are gone now, and there is snow on the ground, but not enough. The winter has been mild again so far. A mild winter and a warm spring are the perfect combination to incubate a grasshopper invasion of the proportions we dealt with in 2002. They were here. They ate their way through our land and laid their eggs in the dry summer earth. The experts tell us they will return in 2003. That is not the question, but rather in what magnitude they will return. For now, we deal with the work of this season, feeding cattle and calving out the herd for a new year. Usually, we look forward to spring with eagerness. This year, it is with dread, and the realization we are caught in a primordial cycle beyond our control. And so, we wait.